Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to New Jersey Satellite Studio, where we show you the flavor of life here in the District of New Jersey.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to INCRadio New Jersey, where we show you the flavor of life. Today, we will be talking once again about carpal tunnel syndrome. So we'll talk about what it is, what causes it, and how is it preventable. So let's welcome back to our show our physical therapist, Marcel.
Hi everyone. It's so nice to
Maricel,
be
I'm
back.
sorry.
You got it, Karen. This is Sister Maricel. I'm so excited to be back because the part one of this episode, we had some technical difficulties. So there were some exercises and treatment programs that we weren't able to show. So I'm excited to be back and discuss more on the treatment options for carpal tunnel syndrome.
And we're excited to see those exercises, Marisol. Even me too, because I have a desk job, an office job. I work in tech, so there's a lot of this going on. And when you do a lot of this, it can hurt a lot of this. So, really excited to talk about this topic with you and to continue on it. And there's a lot of questions. There were a lot of questions in from Team Live Chat, and we weren't able to answer all of them. So, if you could check out our previous episode, at the tail end of that, we had the questions answered by Maricel. So, feel free to check out the replay. All right, so welcome to the show, everyone. We have a lot to talk about, and I'm super psyched for this. You know the wealth of knowledge that comes from Marisol. Y'all know. If you haven't, you're in for a treat. Okay. Okay, so let's get started. All right, so if you don't know her yet, and I'm sure you know you love her. All right. Yeah, she's Marisol Dagadot. She's a physical therapist, and she's also a deaconess. You can find her in the local of Winslow when she's there, when she's not traveling jet set all over the place on the whitewater rafting or kayaking or something interesting somewhere. She's always doing something fun. Okay, so how's it going, Marisol?
All right. Yeah, thank you for that introduction, Jeff. Thank you. I am here to share my knowledge, and I am really hoping that our viewers will be able to have a good takeaway that they can prevent carpal tunnel syndrome and other hand conditions. So take it away with your questions. I'm here to answer.
All right, let's start it off. So, Marisol, this is part two, and we had a part one. So, can you give us a brief review of what was discussed in the previous episode regarding CTS? For example, what were the causes? What were some of the symptoms? Yeah, can you give us a recap?
Sure. So in the previous episode, we defined what carpal tunnel syndrome is. So just to reiterate, everybody, all of us, we have a carpal tunnel. So our carpal tunnel, if you look at your hand, there's a fat pad here under the thumb. Let me see if I can show it in the screen right there. And then there's another fat pad by the ring finger. And in between these fat pads, we call the thenar eminence and the hypothenar eminence, there's an indentation there. That's where our tunnel is. So all of us, we all have carpal tunnel. The medical condition is called carpal tunnel syndrome, or the CTS. So what happens with carpal tunnel syndrome is there is they call the flexor retinaculum that connects the thenar eminence and the hypothenar eminence. So imagine this, there's a ligament, a transverse ligament right there. And because of this ligament, there's a space underneath the ligament, and that's the tunnel. Now, what can you find in the tunnel? You can find the median nerve and the flexor tendons of our wrist responsible for this movement. So the median nerve, the function of the median nerve, it's a motor and sensory function. So motor meaning it allows the fingers to move and the wrist. And sensory, it gives sensation to the finger. So particularly the median nerve supplies the thumb, the point finger, the middle finger, and half of the ring finger. Now it's important to note that it only supplies half of the ring finger and not the little finger. So a true carpal tunnel syndrome, you will not hear the patient complain of numbness in the ring finger because the ring finger is not innervated by the median nerve. So a true carpal tunnel syndrome will only be numb from the thumb to the half of the ring finger because that's what the median nerve supplies. I see you frowning there, Brother Jeff.
I'm
Interesting,
frown.
right? That's the anatomy.
Yeah, and it's funny because, Marisol, when I was growing up, it was head, shoulders, knees, and toes. This is way more. And by the way, everyone, if you're having questions on what you should name your kids, Marisol named some transverse ligament. Sounds like a cool name. Yeah, TL. Oh, this is my son or daughter, TL, transverse ligament.
No, Brother Jeff. So I was a little thrilled when I found out that we actually have a tunnel, that nerves are actually tunneling. That kind of like, wow, blew my mind. Because
Right?
I'm thinking of
Yeah.
actual a tunnel and these nerves are actually going through it. So it kind of makes sense that if you're getting inflammation in between here, it kind of makes sense. So hey, let's hear for Sister Maricel. She's very knowledgeable on that. I learned a lot last time. Hopefully we'll learn a lot this time. So Sister
Right.
Maricel,
So
go ahead.
yeah, so what causes it is what causes carpal tunnel syndrome is most commonly it's repetitive use of the wrist. So if you are someone whose occupation entails you to do a lot of wrist movement, if like you have a desk job, always typing, so typists, assembly line workers, because they do repetitive motion of the hand and the wrist. Who else is at risk? Musicians who use a lot of their fingers, so they're also prone to carpal tunnel syndrome. And even players, like the racket players, tennis, pickleball, table tennis. So they use a lot of this, right? So it's repetitive motion. So they're also prone to having carpal tunnel syndrome. And other risk factors are obesity, because if you are obese, it can cause some it can narrow your tunnel. So be mindful of, again, proper diet and other medical conditions like diabetes, rheumatoid arthritis, thyroid problems. So those are people who are at risk for developing carpal tunnel syndrome.
What about our teenagers who are always on the phone just doing like this constantly?
Oh yeah, that's we will be discussing this particular hand problem also towards the end, because this thumb motion, there's a thumb condition that they're also prone to developing. So
Okay.
stick till the end.
All right. Well, what are some treatment options for carpal tunnel?
Very good question, Karen. So the very first treatment option for carpal tunnel syndrome, if you are experiencing carpal tunnel syndrome, if you are in the acute phase of CTS, you want to rest it. It just makes sense if the cause of of CTS is repetitive motion, so it makes sense to rest that part. So some doctors would recommend using a brace. It can be a splint or a brace. I'm sure you've seen that. So what the brace does is it just braces your wrist, so you avoid using your wrist. So that way you're giving the inflammation time to the swelling to decrease. So rest it, ice it, because icing can decrease the swelling. So just rest it until the pain is manageable. Now, once the pain is manageable, that's when doctors would also let's go back to acute phase. So resting, and doctors would sometimes recommend anti-inflammatory medications like anti-inflammatory like ibuprofen, or sometimes corticosteroids to really help with the swelling. So now once the swelling is a little is gone, or not totally gone, but it's not as swollen as in the acute phase, doctors would recommend you to go to physical therapy. And that's when the therapist will teach you some strengthening exercises, stretching exercises. So those are conservative management. But for severe cases, if CTS is not managed by resting, medication, and physical therapy, doctors would recommend surgery. But that surgery is really the last resort because, surgery is there's always risk, right? So what they do with surgery is, like I mentioned, the transverse carpal tunnel right there, what they do with the surgery is they cut it so we improve the space. So you are right to make that face, Jeff. If you only you can see Jeff, but
Yeah,
that's why
I
it's
made this face like, okay,
that's
yeah,
why
back to you.
it's the last resort because although cutting that flexor tendon sheath will improve the tunnel, give the median nerve more space to move around, but then you're also at risk because that flexor tendon is there for a reason. It provides stability to the wrist joint. So if you cut it, then it will decrease the stability of your wrist. So you kind of wanna doctors, surgeons will weigh the pros and cons. If the pain is too severe, then you gotta go through surgery.
So they're kind of digging a bigger tunnel to relieve the pain.
To just make the space bigger so that the median nerve can glide freely.
Wow,
So,
super interesting.
so
Go ahead, Karen.
Marisol, you mentioned ice. What about heat?
So heat and ice, they have different function. Ice is usually for reducing swelling because it constricts your vessels. So if you are in the acute stage, if you're still swollen, you don't want to heat it because heat is a vasodilator, so it opens the vessel. So you don't want to heat an inflamed hand. So you wanna constrict it by using cold. So acute stage of the injury, you wanna ice it, but if it's towards the subacute phase, then you can heat it up.
Wow. Yeah, super interesting stuff. So, those are for treatments. Marisol, how about lifestyle changes that can help prevent CTS? How can we preempt it? Because that's once you got it. How can you keep us from getting it?
Right. So lifestyle changes is very important in prevention of CTS. So lifestyle, like I mentioned, obesity, diabetes, and other medical conditions can contribute to CTS. So one lifestyle change that we all should follow, not just for prevention of CTS, for any other medical conditions, observe and practice a healthy lifestyle so you don't get, like obesity. You can prevent obesity, and obesity has so many other complications like diabetes, heart disease. I can name a whole lot of medical conditions, but number one is to maintain a healthy diet. Number two is you want to take frequent rest breaks. So if you are one of those who are at risk that I mentioned earlier, take frequent rest breaks and practice regular stretching exercises, and also practicing like using an ergonomic workstation to prevent those conditions.
So you mentioned exercises. What exercises could we do to help prevent this or to alleviate this?
Right. So now, mind you, these exercises should be done when you are not in the acute phase of the carpal tunnel syndrome, okay? Because if it's just in the beginning phase, you are in a lot of pain. You won't be able to do these exercises. And actually, doing these exercises can actually be harmful than helpful because the tunnel is so inflamed. You don't want to keep using it because it will cause more inflammation. So rest it first. Once the pain is manageable, like it's not like from a scale of 0 to 10, if it's maybe in the middle, like a 5, and pain is there for a reason. If you are hurting, then your body's way of telling you it's too much. But if you are in that subacute phase, so the exercises that you can do, this is a very good exercise. If you have this hand gripper, you can find this in any, like any store. So what you want to do is you really want to strengthen this, the thenar and the hypothenar muscles, because like I said, the flexor ligament is right here. So what you want to do, you want to bulk these two muscles. So when it's bulk, when it's strong, the transverse carpal ligament is elevated as well. So it will improve the tunnel underneath. So you want to strengthen that, right? Makes sense. So this is a very good exercise, the hand gripper. You can do this several times a day. You can also use a rubber band or a hair tie, because you want to strengthen individual muscles in your fingers and also the thumb. So you can just play around with it. It's pretty common sense. Like, you want to strengthen individual muscle groups. So you can just loop it around like this and move your thumb, move your, if it doesn't want to stay like this one doesn't want to stay, you can hold it with your other hand and kind of just spread your fingers individually. You can do this and isolate whatever finger you want to work on. You can do this and move your thumb this way. Just different ways of movement. So those are simple exercises that you can do. You also want to stretch your wrist flexors and your wrist extensors. I know you've seen this a lot, but you can stretch your wrist flexor. So wrist flexion is like this, right? Bending it. So to stretch it, you want to go the opposite way. So this is to stretch the wrist extensors. You want to hold it depending on how tight you are, but you want to hold it for at least 10 to 20 seconds. The longer the hold, the better. And do it about 5 times. And then to stretch, and you also want to stretch the wrist extensor. So wrist extension goes like this. So you want to stretch the opposite way. So pull your, same thing, about 10 to 20 second hold, 3 to 5 times. And you can also do this, like the prayer stretch. It's also stretching your wrist flexors. And to stretch the wrist extensors, you can do the reverse prayer test. And then another exercise that you can do is what we call the nerve glide exercise, or some people or medical practitioners call it the nerve flossing exercise. So what it does is it allows the median nerve to flow smoothly in the carpal tunnel. So this is how you do the median nerve glide. So first, you want to extend your shoulder like this to 90 degrees and bend your elbow to 90 degrees. And then you want to point your wrist down. So there's different stages of median nerve glide. The first stage is no movement of the head, just this. You want to straighten your elbow and then bend it back again. Just go like this. For severe cases, you want to just do the wrist first, just like this. So let's do this. This is step 1, just wrist flexion and wrist extension. If that's tolerable, you want to make it a little harder. You go to step 2, you want to extend your elbow and go back, just like this. And if that's good and you're not getting excessive pain or numbness and tingling, now you want to include the head movement. So as you extend your elbow, you're going to look away and down. And as you bend it back, you want to look towards it. So that's stage 3.
Was this also a dance move in the 1980s, Maricel?
I don't know. I'm not a dancer, Jeff.
Not yet.
We can make it into a dance, right? So it sticks, right?
I don't know, but it's a very cool stretch exercise. I feel my muscles stretching. I like that. I think I'm going to incorporate that. So
There
question,
you go.
so is it good to, would you say if you're a person who who are doing these repetitive movements, and even if you're not feeling anything now, is it a good to suggestion maybe to practice those, often, those exercise, those stretches?
Yes, yes, Karen, it is. Like I said, it's prevention is always better than cure. So if you are prone to this, do these exercises even if you don't have any symptoms, to prevent it from happening.
Hmm, interesting. Now, Marisol, those are some things we could do at home. What are some ways that employers can help prevent CTS in the workplace? And what ergonomic adjustments? You mentioned ergonomics, which is also another good name for. Just kidding. another, yeah, another ergonomic adjustment that can be made to reduce CTS risk.
Yes, so our employers can really help in preventing carpal tunnel syndrome. So if you have a good employer, they should be able to provide you with a good ergonomic workstation. I don't know if Kuya Tech can play the picture of an ergonomic workstation. Kuya Tech. There you go. Thank you so much. So as you can see in the illustration, everything is about good posture. Think of the word neutral. Maybe you can name your kid neutral too.
Oh yeah, we'll have like a bunch of them just so we can name them all these.
Yeah, so think neutral. Everything should be neutral. So start beginning from the head. So if you can see, your screen should be in a position where like your eye level, like the top of the screen is at your eye level or it's just slightly lower, so that you are not looking down, which puts a strain on your neck, or you're not looking up, which also puts a strain on your neck. So it should be eye level. And then if you look at the shoulder and the elbow should be at 90 degrees. And the wrist should be in the neutral position also. So meaning neutral, it's neither extended, neither flexed. So it should be like this. It should be in a straight line. And your spine should be, we have that small at the, like the small curvature in our lumbar spine. So your chair should also have that little curvature so it supports your low back. Some people would have like a lumbar pillow. So that way you're not really hyper extended like that, which puts a lot of strain on your spine also. And you should be sitting all the way back into the seat. So that's keeping our spine neutral also. And your feet, for small people like me, um, if you cannot touch the floor because you have to sit all the way back, right? If you cannot touch the floor, then have something underneath so that your feet are resting. Or if you don't have that, if you need to scooch towards the edge of the chair, then that's when you need that lumbar pillow to still keep your spine supported. What else? If you can also post the other picture, Kuya Tek. So as you can see here, this is the what proper alignment of the wrist should be. As you can see on the right side, the wrong position is if your hand is too much like this, that's not good. Even if it's the opposite way, if it's too much like this, it's not good either. So again, it should be in the neutral position. So our employers, if you can request from your employers to provide you with a good keyboard, or I didn't look for ergonomic keyboards, or because I really don't use them, so I really can make a recommendation. But I'm sure there's a wide literature out there that you can research. You can find which keyboards or mouse can give you proper wrist support, and just listen, read on the reviews. So that one, if your employer can provide you with that ergonomic workstation, and if also they will allow you to take frequent rest breaks, like maybe every hour, take a break, do some stretches, do some range of motion exercises. That would be great if your employer will allow you to do that. And also if your employers can provide like training for proper lifting, proper body mechanics, that way you're not straining your joints.
What are some common hand conditions?
Right. So other than carpal tunnel syndrome, there's other hand conditions that other people can suffer from. So the opposite of the carpal tunnel syndrome, there's an ulnar nerve syndrome. So the ulnar nerve innervates the ring finger and the half of the ring finger. Remember, I said earlier, the median nerve only supplies the half of the ring finger. The other half is supplied by the ulnar nerve and the ring finger. So if you experience numbness and tingling in the ring finger and the other half of the ring finger, that is more likely ulnar nerve syndrome. And another common condition is the de Quervain's disease, or um, pain right here in your thumb. So this is very common for people, like the question that you raised earlier, Karen, like for gamers, like when you're a gamer, you do a lot of this. So you are really prone to developing the de Quervain's disease. And that's pain right here in the thumb area. And then another common condition is the trigger finger. When your finger, like we have three joints here in the fingers. It can lock on you, like when you bend it, it stays stuck like that. That's the trigger finger. And just other repetitive injury like straining your hand and your wrist. So those are common other hand conditions.
And Marisol, how can we prevent or manage these conditions? Because once again, me too. I'm a typer. I've also had tennis elbow. Yeah. What are your recommendations?
Yeah, so like I said earlier, to prevent this, do a lot of stretches, strengthen it, and do the nerve glide. If you can squeeze that in, that's really a good idea, Karen, to do the nerve glide exercises. But like I mentioned earlier, proper diet, frequent rest breaks, make exercise a routine, do strengthening and stretching exercises. So if you are at risk for this, if you have if it's an occupational hazard for you, so it's a good idea to do this, to follow these preventative measures.
Thank you, Marisol. Those are very helpful suggestions and things. So we can also suggest to our bosses that if you don't want me out on sick leave or going out for surgery, let me take those frequent breaks and help me make my desk space more ergonomically. I'm sorry, I'm hesitating on that word. But anyway, could you give us some key takeaways?
I think I said it already, Sister Karen. My kid, if there's only one thing that you can take away from this episode, is to maintain a healthy diet. Health and fitness is always important, whatever condition, be it carpal tunnel syndrome or other condition. Just make it a habit to exercise yourself, strengthen every muscles you have in your body, and keep them flexible.
All
Right,
right.
because
Thanks,
the key
Marisol.
thing is if you don't use it, you'll lose it. So
There
if
you
you don't
go.
use the exercise, you'll lose it.
All right. Words of wisdom from not just Marisol, but also Sister Karen. So, all right. So, Marisol, do you have any shout outs?
Nothing in particular, just hello to everyone who's listening in, and to my family in the Philippines and my in-laws here. If you're watching, thank you so much for watching. And to all our viewers, I really hope that I was able to share nuggets of knowledge to you guys so that you'll be able to prevent having this painful condition.
All right. How about you, Karen? Do you have any shout outs?
Yes, I want to shout out to all of our listeners here in the District of New Jersey, and to my local congregation, and to our local resident minister, Brother Bernard Carcel, and his family.
All right, and we have a bunch in Team Live Chat. So shout out to Jaster from Washington, D.C., and check out Washington, D.C. You've seen Jaster on some previous shows. Shout out also from Michelle Giang. I hope I'm saying your name right. Happy Sunday morning to all brethren from the island of Saipan, District of Micronesia. So if you are on the other side of the world, go visit Sister Michelle. Okay, greetings also from and to Mario Oka. Oh, Mario, we love you. You're always watching. Good evening here in the Philippines, and enjoy watching here on INCRadio New Jersey. Also, Sally San Martin, happy viewing Greetings po from Babanwang, Isabella West. We also have, I don't know what your name is, but Kilani Verse. Greetings from F. Manalo. I think she's from the, SJ. I don't know where SJMME is, but sounds like a cool place. And also another one of our favorites. Check her out on INC Radio Oregon. Flo Guillermo. She says greetings to New Jersey studio. And we also, last minute, we have Camille Jamao As. Check her out next on INC Radio in New York. Greetings and love from our neighbors. We are winding down. Sister Karen, can we go through the activities real quick?
Yeah, School of Tech. Can we play that bumper? Okay, no bumper. So only thing
Activity
we have.
updates.
So we have scheduled for this week, June 14th to the 15th, is our Kadiwa meeting in a local congregation. So check with your local congregation for the times.
All right, sounds good. Now we're at time. So Sister Karen, I think we gotta close the show.
Okay, so, and that's it for today's show. We'd like to say thank you to all of you who attended our show today. If you found value in our discussion today, please like and subscribe for more content like this. And if you think this episode is helpful to someone, please pass it along. And if there is anything you'd like to share that you'd like our studio to talk about, just let us know.
All right, and before we go, we'd like to thank our church administration for their continuous support to INC Radio and allowing us to have this show where we can stay connected and learn together. We especially thank our Executive Minister, Brother Eduardo Manalo, and our Deputy Executive Minister, Brother Angel Manalo. We'd also like to thank our INC Radio Station Manager, Brother Wally Tarai.
And before we say goodbye, we again thank you for all the viewers for watching this show. See you in the next episode. Bye.
See ya and do the glide.
Dance it.
This is INC Radio, DCEM 954, the voice of truth, the official radio